All right, it's 2024 and another edition of Bourbon Banter Evans. Justin, what are the people in store for today?
2024 already. It seems like 2023 flew by. I say, you know what? I'm almost out of that Weller. I'm almost out of this bottle and bond.
Yeah.
Is it time to buy another one?
I don't know. Is it time?
I say we talk a little bit about Bourbon Turnover.
Okay.
You know,
So what would you consider turnover? What are you saying?
that's a good question. I'm glad that you asked, and I bet you're wondering too what Bourbon Turnover is because you probably never heard the term because we just invented it about 30 seconds ago.
Yep.
That being said, Bourbon Turnover is literally what it says is the turnover for the next time you purchase a bottle that you've already had and or that one of your favorites that you drink that you cannot always get. So here's a couple of examples on the table with, of course, our control front and center,
Yes.
mostly because we don't know if that's readily available and what kind of turnover we would have. I can tell you this, after having a glass of it, by the way, cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining in.
Yep. Like and subscribe.
The turnover on this is as soon as that's empty, I need more.
Before that.
Now, the question is, what exactly is bourbon turnover and how long is your turnover? So my guess is that each individual person, bourbon drinker per se, has their own individual turnover for how long they go before they see a bottle and buy it. Now, it's different than food, even though it's a consumable product. It's different than water, consumable product. It's different than a lot of things that we've talked about in the past, like collectible things like that, like your guns, your golf clubs, things of that nature,
Yep.
baseball cards. But there's still turnover as far as when you need it or when you don't need it, but you buy it anyway. Obviously, you need a steak after you eat the steak,
Yes.
and you want the next steak.
Right.
Does that mean you buy the steak when it's on sale?
Or do you wait a little bit of time?
Do you wait till the next time you cook it? So, perfect example. Bourbon turnover from one of my favorites, 1792, Bottle and Bond. After a year of it not being on the market in our area, again, this is Bourbon Banter Evans, thank you for joining in.
Yep.
It finally was available. So my turnover is, I need to go ahead and buy two immediately when I can find them. When I drink halfway down and I open the next one, then I'm looking for the next one.
Okay.
Because I want to always have one. And if there's enough available in my market, then I want it to be something in my 1792 decanter instead of small batch. Because I prefer the Bottle and Bond personally.
Yeah.
Especially this specific release, L23, did a great job on that release. So that's my turnover for that one. So what kind of turnover are we talking about, Charles?
Yeah.
When you see Taylor,
Oh gosh.
do you just buy it?
Yeah, I just buy it. I mean, for me, in our area, and I think it's like that in a lot of different areas. Taylor is it's out there, it's available, but it's hit or miss. As it depends on what store you're going to and everything else of that. But if I see one, I'm gonna buy one, and I don't care if I have 4 of them deep or whatever else. I'm gonna buy one. I'll probably get to my max around 4 or 5. Have one open, drink it, and then I'll try to keep that replenishment of about 4 or 5.
And that makes sense, especially in our market, because they're not the easiest to come
Yes.
by, and also they're not the easiest to come by for the price that we're willing to pay.
Correct.
So can you find it for a higher price than we're willing
Of
to
course,
pay?
of course.
Sure, but that doesn't mean that we're willing to pay. But that doesn't mean it's wrong to have it at
No.
that price. It just means that's not what we're willing to pay.
It's just it's not in our it's not in where we our price range or whatever what we're willing. Yeah, exactly what you said. Willing to pay. Sorry, uncut, unfiltered.
This is true.
Yeah.
So now the question is, moving on to the next person that comes across Weller. Weller went through a giant phase, did it not?
A huge phase. And I don't know,
I'm
is
not
it
saying
out
it's
of its
over.
phase?
I don't think
know,
it's
I
out of
know.
its phase. I think
Yeah.
it's still going. So I just remember when this one specifically went through a big phase.
Yes.
Now people still look for it, but now Weller as a whole, if it's got any other color than green, blue, black,
Yep.
white, orange, red.
Purple. Sorry, had to go with the LSU color.
Okay, I like it.
That could be. I know we might have to find something.
I know there's a full proof, but why not make a barrel proof? Oh wait, that's already called William LaRue.
Oh yeah, that's
Okay,
true.
scratch that.
All right.
That one's maroon, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the turnover. So if you get the chance to get this, say around $20 to $30 in your market, do you have 2 bottles? Do you have 12 bottles? Do you have 6 bottles? Why? Is it your favorite every day if it was available all the time?
Or do you just wait? Hey, I finished a bottle. I'll just wait and see. And next time I see one, I'm good. If not, if it takes me a month, 2 weeks, a year, I'm good with it. It doesn't matter.
So this is literally our question for you guys. Please comment, give us your reasoning too, or say that we're ridiculous in thinking that bourbon turnover is a thing, because I have to wait till either A, funds allow it, B, I can't get it, so I'm willing to spend the funds that I don't have, aka finance it with a credit card.
Save up for it.
Or save up for it.
Yep.
Or phone a friend, you need to buy this for me, aka the bank.
Yeah.
You know, things of that nature. But am I going to say it's any of these brands? Maybe not. So that bourbon turnover may change if we change one of these bottles out and say,
Oh, I'm sure it would.
put a Winkle out there.
Yeah, I think if you would have put a Winkle, I mean,
Or
then,
B-Tech.
Yeah.
What's your bourbon turnover for a B-Tech?
Right.
Is it every single one you see that's within the range that you're willing to spend?
Right.
Or is it just, I've got one, I don't want a second one?
And then what's funny, what I think about this is, even of these brands up here, it's going to change for these brands up here too. You've got Bottle and Bond, you got a Henry McKenna here. So between these two, somebody's going to like one better than the other, most likely.
Both
and
bonded, by the way.
Yes,
but that doesn't mean you're going to like Heaven Hill versus Barton.
Right. And so this one, anybody sees it. Oh, this is one I love. If I see it, I'm going to buy it. Whereas, oh no, that's a good drinker. I'll finish the one I have. I already got one. I'm pretty sure I can find it within the next 2 weeks.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. And so, especially if it's on the shelf all the time,
yes.
Then I had the saying prior to all this was, drink one, keep one.
Right.
One to open,
one to keep,
and one to keep.
And
so once you finish that one, you move that one forward.
Yep.
That was your
replenish.
Once you found a second one, that's when you opened it.
Yep.
And you had another one. So they always kept two.
Yeah, you're basically keeping two.
So that one made sense. I got that because I didn't want to run out, especially if I liked it.
Yep.
But remember when Henry McKenna won that giant award? Then it was every single bottle of McKenna disappeared.
Oh God, it was gone.
It doesn't matter. You couldn't get 5.
No.
Because 7 is what you
but
need.
Before,
you couldn't get 12 because 15 is what you need.
Before then, it was on the shelf and it readily available, and I'm sure nobody even thought about it. They're like, Henry McKenna.
No, once it won the award, it went nuts. And you're absolutely right. I remember having it anytime I wanted it for $24. Wins the award, goes up to 37, then it goes up to 50, then it goes up to 60. Now it's around 69 here in our market, which is fine. It's still a really good tenure.
Yep.
And I'm not going to complain. It's 10 years old for $70. If I can complain that that's 70, then I should be able to complain about a lot of other 10 years.
Exactly.
But that's not this video for the 10-year age statements. This is literally just of these bottles that you see, what is your specific bourbon turnover? Or is it just, I have one, that's it, I'm good?
And so what we have up here is we have a lot of what we'd call kind of medium road drinkers, because they're kind of hard to find, but in our market, they're available. You know what I mean?
They're findable.
Yes. Now, if we were to put, just like you said earlier, put a Winkle up here.
What is your bourbon turnover?
What is your turnover for that? I mean, do you even have a turnover? Because have you ever had a Winkle? That's kind of where we get into. If you had one, would you be willing? You saw one out there, reasonably priced. Would you open yours and put the other one back into your account?
I'm gonna have to venture to say, if there's somebody that has 3 or 4 Winkles of the same, say it's the 10, which would be the old Rip Van Winkle, there's a good chance that their threshold isn't met.
No.
That if they have the opportunity to buy a 5th, they'll do it.
Right.
That could be hype. It could be quality. It could be both. What about this bottle back here?
Oh, the good old horse bottle?
Yeah, the horse bottle, the Blanton's. So that's a very popular bottle, that very iconic that everybody goes after. Do you need to spell the word out?
No.
Is that enough? Or do you need to spell the word out, have the horses, and then have the bottles open?
For me personally, I want to spell the word, get it nicely displayed, and then I could basically do without a bottle for the rest of my life.
That's just understandable. I mean, so kind of like how I went with Blade and Bow. I collected the key sets.
Yeah.
I got 1 through 5, and I was excited, but I liked it enough that I decided to get 1 through 5 3 times. So they don't have a 1 through 15, but I do.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, it's one of those. We've talked about this before. Blanton's is not one of my favorites, but I still want to spell it out. But the problem is right now, availability and the price of it. I'm kind of stuck on 4 letters.
And it could be that way for a while.
It will.
But your bourbon turnover says, I've got 4 bottles. I still need 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yep.
Or maybe you want to duplicate it 3 times.
Right.
It's just up to the person that wants. But so this one I think has a high bourbon turnover.
I think so.
Meaning it doesn't matter if you got it, you're going to keep getting it.
Yep.
It's going to turn it over. You're going to turn it over. Even if you drink it, you're going to want it every time you see it. So I think a low bourbon turnover is meaning you got 1 bottle, you'll drink it till it's done. When it's done, then you just worry about the next store you go to. Examples, Evan Williams.
Yes.
Elijah Craig.
Yes.
1792 small batch in our area is pretty findable. If you can't get it once or they're sold out, there's a good chance you can go to another one.
Yep.
Other bourbons that are available, Quality House, Benchmark, things of that nature. Some of the lower end ones are generally always available. And what we're seeing now, what I like, we've talked about this in videos before, and Charles is a big fan too, Bardstown Bourbon Company.
Yes, indeed.
A lot of those
are starting to become a lot more available.
Always available.
Yes.
So if you drink one, you don't need to have 2 or 3 necessarily, because if you drink one, you can easily go replace it. So the bourbon turnover is slower. And it doesn't have the demand.
That reminds me a lot of when Eagle Rare was readily available in our market. And it was one of those, loved it, didn't care, finished a bottle. I knew I could go out there the next day and get one. Well, guess what? Those days stopped eventually. And it was hard. And so, I don't know about you, but if I found one, boom, put it up. Had a threshold. I needed at least 3, and then I could open one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what, and now we're fortunate in Georgia to have, right now, availability.
Yes.
And so my Eagle Rare turnover is 1.
Mm-hmm.
I have 1. I drink 1, and I go seek the other one.
Right.
I try to always keep it. I've always wanted to keep it. It's always been one of my go-tos as far as favorite drinkers. Doesn't mean it's going to be your favorite drinker, but I like to keep one on hand. Now, this differs when it comes to bourbon turnover with store picks.
Of course.
So store picks only exist one time.
Right.
So if you find one that's really good and you really enjoy it, then my bourbon turnover is obviously as many as they're going to let me buy.
Yep.
If I really, really like it.
And then I try to, if I get down to 1 bottle, then I'm like, oh, okay, so this is one that I've really enjoyed. That's going to be 1 bottle I'm going to open for a special occasion, and then I don't mind doing it.
Man, that Henry McKenna is really good, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't look at this actual barrel number or anything what year it was, but this is actually a really good one. So the last time I had Henry McKenna was at Charles's house, and this next time is at Charles's bottle.
Nope.
Both barrels were good.
It's good.
Yeah, so far,
it's a good
which is really good. So again, thank you guys for joining in, and cheers to you guys as well.
Cheers. Like and subscribe, and honestly, hit that little bell down there. It'll let you know when we have a new video coming up. So.
Yeah, and cheers to the second video 2024.
Yes, indeed.
That being said, we do have Daniel in the background, and we talked the other night while watching some football and things like that on his bourbon turnover, and he was sharing a good bit of ideas and had a lot of things to say. Not to say he's going to say anything in the background now, but we did want to put him on the spot, whether he wanted to or not.
Right.
And he was going to discuss at least one thing before the video of what his turnover was on one of his brands, maybe 2 or 3. But he had a lot to input in. You willing to input anything now, or you want to pass?
Which one of your brands are you thinking about?
What were you gonna say?
I'm just saying, we've talked about some brands, so.
Well, I think sometimes though, if you think about it, say you like the Bourbon Bond, but you never find it. Then you see it at the store. Even though your turnover might be 3, but they got 6, you might take all 6 because you don't know
when
it's out next time.
Right.
If it's available, yep.
That's a really good example. So that's almost like what they call FOMO.
Yeah.
Fear of missing out. And I think that's one of the things we talked about was the 1792 when Sweet Wheat and Bottled Bond hit at the same time. Because we were in a store and I notified you that they had it. I grabbed one and then he grabbed one.
Yep.
And then I notified him at the next store. I was like, oh, wow, I found another one. But I still had one. And then he went and grabbed another one. And he's like, I'm full. I don't need any more. And so that makes sense. So that's a 2 or 3 bottle purchase.
Yep.
But then I see another one. I'm good. I don't need another one. So that's the bourbon turnover. It's like, I don't need another one. So that turnover stopped until they're gone.
Because I'm willing to open one now, and I've got one in reserve, or however you want to do it.
But you did say something earlier that made sense, that goes into that FOMO, fear of missing out, is when do you stop buying Taylor? Because we don't know when it's going to be abundant again where it doesn't matter. So back to the Eagle Rare. So I'm grouping those in together because they're BT1 and they're both tall.
Yeah.
It makes no sense whatsoever. That being said, I had a friend that when 3 or 4 years ago, Eagle Rare was not readily available, he had up to 8 to 12 bottles because he didn't know when they wouldn't exist again and he liked to drink it.
Yep.
That's great. Now,
said friend sitting on
8 bottles.
Yeah.
It was like, okay. And so what do you do then? So
hopefully it was a good year.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like hopefully, well, it spanned from back to 2018. So
Right.
I mean, he had a span of those.
Right.
That being said, Daniel, E.H. Taylor, how many is too many small batches before you say, you know what, my turnover has stopped? Or if you see a Taylor everywhere you go for, let's just call it SRP, say you get lucky, do you buy it every time you see it? When do you stop? What's your turnover rate?
Like for me personally, I mean, it depends on the person too, because it could be
100% depends on the
people's
person.
funds and everything else.
Of course, yeah.
Like if I seen small batch at SRP, it would probably be a couple cases.
Yeah. And see, I'm right there with you. And so with me, like I said before, I'm usually between 4 or 5 bottles unopened.
But if it's a
That's
really
my-
favorite,
Oh, and then, like
That's
L21. I mean, I'm still looking for those. To be honest with you,
not in stores.
not in stores, but if I can find them,
Sewers.
if I know people that have them, I'm talking to them. Let's just put it that way.
Or we're asking for a glass.
Yeah, because L21 was darn good.
Yeah, but again, Taylor for the most part solid. Eagle Rare for the most part solid to us.
Yes.
And another one we talked about, but we didn't put on the table. Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
At what point does the bourbon turnover say, I have 12 bottles, that's enough?
Yeah, and see, for me, Buffalo Trace, finish my bottle, I'll go look for one. And that's our market right now. We've been blessed in our market. Now, I know some people that live over in Alabama. Any of the things we've been talking about, they can't get it.
Control state.
They can't get it.
Yeah. But the good thing is, for me, 1792 is readily available.
Yes.
Elijah Craig is readily available. Larceny is readily available.
Yep.
A lot of these things are readily available, but it does happen to have a couple of the items, all of them, on the table that are not, unfortunately. So I will say that I agree with Daniel. Everybody's bourbon turnover is different. Depends on the person, depends on the brand, depends on the funds available to them. And let me reinforce this. It depends on the brand.
Yes. I think the two main factors for me, funds and the brand. And then you start kind of going into, how much you're willing to pay for something.
Right. And okay, let me throw this out there. There's another, let's call it a subsidiary of Bourbon Turnover. I now have 6 bottles of my favorite brand here. I was offered a 7th bottle. I don't need this bottle, but you know what? I probably have a friend that does. So let me go ahead and say yes and call up friend. Hey, I was able to get another bottle. Do you want the bottle?
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, they say no, and I still have another of my favorite bottle.
Right.
Yeah, that can happen. I think we didn't. I don't know if we did this in bourbon terms. That's called muling.
Yeah, it
Essentially,
is.
It is bringing the bottle back for somebody.
But I guess let me rephrase that. When I said it, it's really on the cost, not really my how much money I have. It's really on the cost for me, the bottle.
Yeah.
So
again, put in the comments. Let us know. Send us a message. What is your bourbon threshold turnover for a specific brand or not a brand? Or if you are just a mad scientist of I've calculated everything I can possibly calculate. I'm up to 500 of everything.
Yep.
So on and so forth. I bought one of everything, and that is it. I'm a one and done, which is completely fine. And so, again, let us know what your bourbon turnover is. It is literally a thing. And the only reason that I'm bringing this up is because a lot of these people that we see, they're buying the same brand over and over, but they're not opening them, which is fine. It's up to them. It's their product. But at what point do they say, I've got enough, I can finally open one?
Really kind of goes into one of our previous videos, collecting or drinking, that type of thing. It very much, this melds very well with that one.
Yeah, the moral of where we're going is, what is your turnover status before you open a bottle and drink it?
Yeah.
So how many is it going to take of these brands before you say, you know what, I can open it? Some people just say, I'm so excited to have it, open it immediately.
Tell us which one that you don't really care. You drink it down, do not care about if it's empty, because you can go out there tomorrow and find you another one, maybe not tomorrow, in a day or two. I'd like to know those in the comments, and then also tell us the one that you sit there and you pile it 3 or 4 deep.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested. And don't forget, if you want to be involved in some of these, or say you haven't tried any of these and you want to, reach out to us. If you're in Evans, this is Bourbon Banter Evans. Welcome to the round table. Let's talk some bourbon.
Definitely. Well, I can't go past the control. The control's good.
The control's fantastic.
It is.
I can't deny the control is good. But that is, I think, what I've got for Bourbon Turnover.
I think so too. Like and subscribe, guys. Honestly, put your comments in there. We really want to hear from them. We'll answer as much as we can, and look forward to hearing from you.
I definitely look forward to that as well, and I will do a quick rundown to end the video. If you watch to the end, my bourbon threshold, and I'll go across this real quick. 3, 2, unlimited, 3, 1. Cheers.
Cheers.